What's up, and welcome back to another episode of InSights, the podcast built to help you with your recruitment and digital marketing. Today I'm joined by Steve Gipson. Steve, how we doing, buddy?
Good, Brad. How are you?
I'm fantastic. As is standard, we have some catching up to do. Haven't talked to you since probably since we tracked the last episode. How's life? How you been?
It's good, man. Good. Busy.
Good.
Holidays and end of the year.
Of course.
Finished my last conference of the season, which is great.
How was it? Which one and how was it?
It was the MKSSA, so local state association here for Missouri and Kansas. I prefer the small ones. You actually get to talk with people. There's time to actually interface versus people just wanting my candy.
Of course.
So it's nice to be able to have real interactions versus just handing off swag. And so it was good. Good speakers, good time, good people. So yeah.
Very.
What are you, man? What have you been up to?
What have I been up to? We're busy over here, man. We're busy. On top of Haley, on top of training, running, family, new baby, holiday season. Life's going to start back up soon here with the National Lacrosse League, which I'm very excited about. I don't know if you know that. I also work for the NLL.
Yeah. We've talked about that before.
Yeah, so that's going to start up. That's nights and weekends, nights on the weekends rather. So things are busy.
When you cheer for that, so you go out, do you have a specific outfit that you use to be a cheerleader for that? Or is it?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm not a cheerleader for the NLL.
Oh, see, okay, so we misunderstood that.
Yeah, we did. So for any lacrosse fans who don't know, on game night, so usually Friday, Saturday, Sunday when the NLL plays, anything that comes across X, there's a good chance on Facebook. I don't do so much Instagram. Those highlights come directly from me in Buffalo, New York, which is a lot of fun. So we have people that are cutting highlights, and then I have the fun opportunity to go out and distribute those to a lot of the league's leading social platforms. Yeah. So work along with a great team. But yeah, that's going to start back up. So when you ask me how I'm doing, man, we're training, we're living, and we're doing really, really well.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah. It's cool to get to do the lacrosse. Did you play?
I didn't.
No.
I did not. I got in because of someone who used to work here. So Kyle Denhoff, he was actually just on Take the Stage. I just brought him back on for a show. He's at HubSpot now. He was working at Haley, knew that I was passionate about social at the time. He got me in with one of the teams in the MLL, met some great people, moved over to the NLL, was working for the team in Rochester, and then that catapulted me to actually just working for the league. So just been this 7-8 year now progression of just continuously being around the sport and loving the sport. For never having played, being pretty ingrained in the sport right now and a lot of the players too.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Hey man, what do you say? You want to get to a show?
Sure, why not?
All right. I want to talk first, Steve, about the need to refine our marketing and refine our marketing messaging, the tactics we're deploying, and refine a lot of what it is that we're doing as we look to 2025. Steve, I know you have a ton of calls with clients and prospects throughout the day. I'm at a point now where roughly 4 to 5 calls a day I'm having with current clients about their marketing challenges, their needs, their goals. And an overwhelming concept that I'm continuously seeing is clients are coming to us for a specific need. In this case, maybe it's driving sales. And instead of saying, hey, let's only go and target our former client database, let's only target the 100 companies that we used to work with, it's let's deploy marketing that just drives us sales leads. And in my mind, Steve, and I've been a part of the industry now for 12 years, I don't know your number on that. Staffing and recruiting firms, in my mind, don't necessarily have the budget to target all prospects and all leads, just as a stereotype. Sure. And as I've seen again for my 12 years here, some do. Most do not. Knowing that, it is so much more critical to say, yes, we need leads, but this is the audience that we're going to get them from.
Sure.
We are going to go back to former customers, or we're going to target current customers and get more of their business, or we're going to go out to completely new prospects and we're going to deploy marketing that gets us orders from new customers. Steve, I think when I look at what the best staffing firms are doing differently, they're 1, understanding a goal, and then 2, getting hyper focused on who the target audience is to reach that goal so that they can then deploy the tactics that get there.
Sure.
Thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, you have that old saying, right? Was it riches and niches, right? From the perspective of picking a specific picking a specific vertical. And I definitely agree with that. That's why we have a company called Recruiters Websites. But from the perspective hyper focused, right? But even
what is it that you do?
Well, you'd be surprised. I don't need a job board. We're good. People get confused. But from the perspective of even within your marketing, so if you can hyper focus some of those marketing initiatives to the right kind of audience based on the right audience or specific audience, then that's in a way a niche that you're creating within the way that you approach that audience. So yeah, I would say building efficiencies and finding the right audience will then allow you to be more effective in what you do and get more out of your marketing budget and your spend versus trying to target the whole world. You can use PPC or pay-per-click. Advertising is a really good example of this. We have clients that work national markets, and they want to be able to target the entire country. And they got a budget of really, really low ad spend, and you're just not going to be able to do it. But if they knew that the primary bulk of their business comes from, such as St. Louis, Missouri, and they do 80% of their business there with these types of organizations, well, why don't we build a campaign that supports that type of geographical location and that audience? And that allows you then to be able to actually use that lower budget to be very efficient in what you're doing when you're marketing that specific type of person or type of client.
It helps stretch the budget. I think it helps us hyper focus again our messaging, right? So when you think about, let's switch to consumer goods. So buying a t-shirt or buying a sweatshirt. If you've already bought a shirt in green, it's much easier for that company to sell you the red shirt than it is if you've never purchased that item before. Sure. If you purchased it in the past, it's different messaging to come back and say, hey, why don't you buy this a second time? We need to think about that as it relates to staffing and recruiting. If you have worked with somebody in the past, the messaging to get them to come back home is very, very different than if you have a current customer that you want to do different business with in different verticals within their organization. And that messaging is drastically different. If you've never partnered with Steve at all, Steve doesn't know who you are.
Right.
So I think that the challenge is, hey, we need talent. Hey, we need orders. Do marketing that gets us those things.
Right.
We need to have, and this really, I guess, comes back down to marketing, internal marketing teams or our teams have the courage to say, yes, that's the goal. Now break that down. And what are we going to do to reach that goal in a hyper-focused mentality?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so this is maybe a poor analogy in some ways, but I'm going to use it because
love a good analogy.
I got a mic in front of me, so you're going to listen, right? Unless you turn it off. But the concept of, so you've been running recently, right? And training for a half marathon. So I picked up swimming.
Full marathon, please.
Full marathon. I'm sorry. You ran a half
Rule
marathon
number one,
recently.
if you're running for a marathon, you need to tell everyone you're running for a marathon.
Well, 100%. Yeah. If you don't have the sticker on the back of your car that already says 13.2 or 13.5, you're already missing out, right?
Sure.
So I've been swimming. I picked up swimming a few months ago with a couple buddies.
Oh, nice.
I have some old injuries and swimming was just a nice alternative. I've never done it competitively. I've never done it for exercise, but hey, let's figure it out. So
the winter has to be the perfect time to pick that up, right?
100%. And like almost approaching 40 is the best time to pick it up because everything aches and that helps. So as I'm learning that, and we're going through the process, we got a coach and we're learning to do it right. But the main emphasis that she has as we're swimming down the pool, and we do a 25-yard pool there and back and things like that, and is efficiencies. How do you reduce drag? Right. So as you're swimming, there's ways that you have your form. There's ways that you kick. There's ways that you twist your body and the things that you do, the way that you turn at the wall. All those things reduce drag and create more efficiencies in the way that you are swimming down that water. If you go too wide with your stroke, you're going to put a lot of water in front of your arm and you're not going to go as fast. Or if, you don't kick properly, or you just don't have a proper stroke, it's going to reduce your speed and the way you get to the water. But most importantly, the more efficient you are, the farther you go on less effort, right? And so when you talk about marketing and creating efficiencies and reducing that drag in what we do, what are those things that we're doing outside of what we should be focusing on within our audiences that are creating more drag and reducing our efficiency in what we're putting out from a marketing perspective? And I think if we take a step back and look at that from within our own organization or your own organization, you're going to find, well, I'm going way too wide with this, and it's creating a barrier for me to be able to effectively reach this audience? And I think there's some thought processes that people can take to really make sure that they're getting the most out of what they're currently doing, and then expand upon that. Because once you are efficient, or you have the right form or the right direction, then you can put more effort, because now you know you're doing it and nothing's wasted.
Yeah, I can talk efficiency for a while. Well, as it relates to running, or two, as it relates to specifically driving leads. So I, in the last 3 months, have really tested the thought and theory of, instead of driving somebody to a contact form, let's drive them to my direct bookings link so they can book time on my calendar.
Sure.
How do we reduce friction? How do we make it easy for someone to take action? Do I need to drive them to a website where they need to fill out a form? They need to do all this. Then I have to reach back out with an email. They have to respond with an email. Then we have to find a time to meet. No. If you want to schedule some marketing consultation with me, here's a link to my calendar. And Steve, what I've found is we've generated good, decent leads and new clients from that mentality and from that thought process. So using things like my content, using the podcast, using YouTube, using the LinkedIn content that I put out, whether it's an article or a video, whatever it is, funneling people directly back to my bookings link and saying, listen, if you want to chat, no obligation, let's chat. I love talking about this stuff. I love helping staffing firms and individuals in the industry think through this. Here's how to do it and reduce that friction. That's just one area that I've seen has absolutely had, honestly, better success than I thought it would.
Sure.
And just one key area. If we can think about what else we're doing in our businesses that are bogging us down, that we're sort of just going through the motions because this is the way we've always done it, there are a lot of things that we can do to make sure that we're more efficient and ultimately more effective in everything that we do.
Right. Yeah. Just get the most out of every effort, right? That's the key with it. And if we can target who we're marketing and be specific with that and be more narrowed in, then that social podcast or whatever it is that we're putting together, that's going to then get more results. That link to your calendar is going to yield more results than it would be if it was something that was too broad and not quite the right focus.
Steve, let's kind of change topics here now and think about 2025. Now is absolutely the best time to start thinking about overall strategy for 2025. I have found in my now close to 12 years in the industry, too many staffing firms wait until the calendar changes to start to think about what they want to do in that calendar year. And it's almost, it plays into the stereotype of our industry. I think that there's really, I'm okay saying this, there's no urgency in this industry. The urgency is so far and few between, I feel. And maybe that is wrong to say, but I feel like we're so reactive instead of proactive as an industry that it's going to be a perfect analysis here when we think about why people are strategically planning in January instead of ahead of 2025. Do you see that on the recruiting side?
So I don't know if it's necessarily lack of urgency. I think it's the mindset of like everything to only thinking about today. I think so. There's urgency in every day. I feel like, especially a lot of firms we work with, it's day one of let's say January, and if they don't have anything going, they're already. And there's nothing in the pipeline. January may be sunk, right? So there's that urgency to find the right candidates, to find the right job orders. So they have that urgency all day, but I think it's more of, what am I working on in that moment or at that time versus thinking about, how can I generate more in the future? And I think it comes from a lack of belief that marketing is important.
Continue.
So I just think that the industry as a whole, whether recruiting or staffing, it's probably more on the recruitment direct hire side. They don't believe that marketing is something that recruiters need.
I would agree. Why do you feel that way though with your, however long you've been in the industry, right? It's got to be 15 years? A little longer?
Over 15 years, grew up around the industry. It's because there's no direct correlation to, you eat what you kill kind of mindset within the industry. So I pick up a phone and I have a conversation with a candidate, and I know that candidate, there's a direct correlation to that to the result from that effort. Whereas marketing, I'm putting things out there into the ether, and I don't see the immediate gratification and the immediate results from that. And so I don't believe that there's anything that's happening from that. And then a lot of people say, well, recruiting's different. We're not like this industry or that industry. We don't really need marketing. And that mindset is still very, very prevalent within the conversations I have, the people that I talk to every single day. And just really, even if they say one thing, it's in their actions. They don't believe it, right, as a whole. And I think when you talk about planning and putting those things in place, whether it's for 2025 or any future year, there's lack of that planning because they don't believe that it's something they need to do or that's something that's important to their business.
I think you hit on something there. And I have always articulated it as there's no urgency in the industry, but there's no long-term urgency in the industry. There's no long-term forecasting. It's, sure, Brad, I hear you. We need, and I'll use ongoing SEO, so search engine optimization as a, let's just use that as an example. I hear you. We need Google to find us. But you're also telling me that this is going to take 12 to 15 months for it to truly, truly work. I need orders now, right? So it's not that I don't have the urgency that my business is going to matter then, but I'm worried about the 10 orders that are on my desk right now because I can't eat in 2 months if I don't put somebody to work in this order now. So that's a really, really good point. And thank you for presenting it that way, because I have said for a while now that there's no urgency, but it just needs to be articulated differently. When we think about planning for 2025, I think you hit the nail on the head there. There's no reason to plan for 3 months from now because, again, I'm struggling to get orders now. I don't care what my June plan is going to be. What can we do now? So if maybe, and this is really speaking to me and the light bulb's kind of going off, it's changing the messaging around why you need marketing, why you need tech tools, why you need a sales system, why you need a marketing system to not only sustain what it is that you're doing today to drive orders and drive applications today, but to also set you up to make that easier down the line. Because I don't want you to feel like you feel right now. You just mentioned you started swimming. I know it from running. I'm doing PT for my knee, right? There's a little bit of pain that pops up. You want to change things now so that it doesn't get progressively worse 6 months from now. And what I fear a lot of the staffing and recruiting industry doesn't do, they don't have that PT in the short term to fix the small challenge. So now 2 years from now, there's a bigger challenge. Your competitor is eating up more market share because you didn't lay the foundation that they did. You didn't make the changes in your tech stack like others did because you're too nearsighted to worry about the future.
Right.
Yeah, one.
Yeah. I mean, look at COVID, right? COVID is a prime example of this because everybody had all the job orders they needed. Companies were hiring. We couldn't find enough candidates. When we were talking to people in that era, and that just a few years ago, we were telling them now is the time to start marketing to your clients. Companies are willing to have the conversation. They're willing to actually not turn down your phone calls or delete your emails. They need to talk to you now. Build the relationship now with the companies. Oh, Steve, no, I don't need any job orders. We got everything we need. Let's just go ahead and get candidates. I just need candidates. What can I do? What can I do? I need those immediately now. No long-term planning, no thinking ahead. And then 2 years later, when it flops, because it always does, because the industry is cyclical and there's things that are going to take place and change what we need for whether it's a candidate-driven market or a client-driven market, then all of a sudden you're left without any job orders and no relationships. And now hiring managers, HR reps, companies will not pick up the phone and talk to you because they don't need you in that way. Whereas if you had that relationship, it would be completely different. It's you think about like the most instinctful kind of human nature, right? The hunter-gatherer kind of concept. We're an industry of hunters. We need some gatherers. We need some people that are able to go in and see the concept of being able to plant that garden that we can reap time and time again while you have those people out there hunting, slaying the beast, whatever it is you want them to do, bring home the meat
outrunning the giraffe.
Outrunning the giraffe, climbing on the giraffe's neck and strangling it. You need those people. But we also need people in the industry. You need people in your firm that have a gatherer mindset as well, that know that time and time again, the things that they're sowing today can be reaped tomorrow, the next day, a year from now. And so, it's a little bit of a shift in that just, sales mindset, get what we can today.
we're an industry of hunters and we need some gatherers. Probably going to be the sound clip as well. Clip that one as well. Why don't we? I'm saying that as if there's a producer behind the scenes knowing darn well all that I'm going to do is go into the transcript and search for clip that myself and clip it myself.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Clip that one. All right, great. Right. Yeah, man, I'm sitting here thinking, and not to get too far ahead of ourselves, I was considering this whole thought process for 2025 of kind of going on this personal journey, I've been calling it, of what makes the best staffing firms different and what the best staffing firms do differently. In using that as sort of the cornerstone for all of the presentations I give, using that as a cornerstone for the content I put out, using that as a cornerstone for really the messaging that I bring to my audience and our audience in 2025 of this is what the best staffing firms do differently. And this is it right here. This is absolutely a talking point that needs to be in the presentation, because there are so many organizations that just live day to day. But the best staffing and recruiting firms have the short-sighted and future-sightedness. That's not a word, but it's going to be on this show because I have a microphone and you don't. Right. The future-sightedness to say, listen, here's where we are, here's where we're going, and here's what we need to do to make sure that we're winning in 3 or 5 years.
Yep. Yeah.
Steve, that was a good show, man. I think we might be able to keep it at 2 segments unless you got anything else for me, buddy.
No, I think that's great.
So then with that, I want to take a real short pause here just to kind of break concept. And because this is coming out so close to Thanksgiving, thank everyone for listening as you have throughout the last year, really almost 6 years of InSights. It's been a change over here. We brought Steve on post Matt. It's been a nice change of pace. Steve, I appreciate everything you've been doing for the show and your commitment to the show as well. But to the listeners, to people who consistently reach out on LinkedIn or leave messages or send emails to info@haleymarketing.com and let us know you're listening. Steve, I got to tell you, man, I got on, it's been 3 calls this week alone, people saying that they appreciate the show and they listen to the show. It never ceases to amaze me. I am so blown away. Anyone says like, hey man, I appreciate you. I listen. Had somebody just reach out. Actually, I want to give him a shout out real quick. Let me make sure I get the name right. Where are we at here? Go back to my calendar from Monday. Matthew Scott. Want to give Matthew a shout out. Matthew found the bookings link that I've been posting, reached out for a little bit of marketing consultation, but more importantly, Matthew, I want to appreciate you for continuing to listen to the show. So he's been listening to every episode for the last 7 months.
Oh, wow.
And that's a lot of time with Brad Bialy in your ears and now Steve Gipson in your ears. So buddy, I really appreciate you and appreciate reaching out as well. So Steve, we got a couple more before we end 2024 here, but as I mentioned, I appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for joining here. And what do you say? You want to wrap it up?
Yeah, that sounds great, Brad. I appreciate it as well. And, big shout out to, and thankful heart to Matt Lozar for quitting and giving me the opportunity to do this.
I think he still listens to the show too. So I'm definitely going to get a text after you say that.
Yeah, I'm hoping he
Thank you for quitting.
Me. Thanks for quitting, man. Give me a chance. No, I've really enjoyed it. I get feedback too. I've had multiple people reach out, and anytime you get a chance to creatively talk about some of the things some of the things you experience, and be able to share that insights with an audience is always fun. So,
hey, that's our show. And thank you for listening to another episode of InSights. If you found this episode valuable, we would love to know. You can message Steve or Brad on LinkedIn and share your thoughts. If you have a question for us, you can tweet us at Haley Marketing or email info@haleymarketing.com. And of course, if you need a hand with your recruitment or digital marketing, hey, shoot our team a note. You can message info@haleymarketing.com. And be sure you tell them that InSights sent you. For Steve Gipson, I'm Brad Bialy. We'll see you next time.